Welcome, I'm Bill Wake. We're working on a program to do some personal finance. We're going to look at money as being streams and pools of money and flows between them. And where we are now is we've defined a data structure built on trees that lets us create hypothetical scenarios. And we're trying to improve the structure of that so we can start graphing the scenarios and see how that all plays out. Oh, I did capture notes. So we've updated our unit testing. I'm trying to be a little more consistent about it. We had already adopted some rules that Jeff Langer proposed, named test classes a something and something or some somethings, and we don't put tests in the class name. And test methods, we name them verb and then in or when or whatever context. And our additions are we're going to use snake case, and we've adopted SUT for subject under test or system under test or other variations to represent the object acted on. So if it's arrange, act, assert, sut dot something will cause the action almost always. All right, and I did do a little something offline last night. I reinstalled Swift Lint and fixed the bunches of silly errors. It complains about extra lines. It complains about constants that don't have an underscore if they're longer than 4 characters. I could have lived with 4 being okay, but maybe we'll tackle that rule someday. But anyway, I did that offline and pushed that. No major changes, mostly just deleting extra spaces and stuff. All right, where we left off, we've got this class ScenarioSet that is our first step towards encapsulating set of scenario that we've had around. And I want to do a little refactoring on this and then continue encapsulating it further. Right now, people are looking at scenarios and doing their own iteration and know it's a set and all that. Not good. Okay, so let's go ahead and get it in its own file. And this is ScenarioSet.swift. Okay. And I did run tests before this morning, so okay, yeah, there we go. Swift Lint complaining about some more critical than others. But we definitely pay for this, installing the app to iPad. That was a consequence of shifting our tests or our system from a Mac only to a iPad focused. Okay, but they're good. I'll trust that to work. Okay, so move scenario set to its own file. And I like to remember to check that in when I've done that because it's changing the directory structure a little and makes things complicated if you have to separate that. All right. And then I talked yesterday, complained about somebody's tendency on this project to use these long noun phrases, this noun, noun, noun. And I think scenario set, we can do better. I think if we just called it scenarios, I think that would be an improvement because we're already pretty sure it's not going to be a set, or at least we don't think we have to. Okay, so that touched a few places, including the file. Maybe I should have renamed it first. Right. Let's go to our to-do. Oh, I guess we just did that. Rename scenario set to scenarios. Okay, now we have return values. Let's see, I think that was Plantry. Well, you can see the scenarios.scenarios. No, it must be in scenario. No. Where was that? Oh, yeah, it is here. Okay. Yeah, so they're returning set of scenario. And unfortunately, this is one of those kind of harder refactorings. This is in a protocol, so if I change it, it's sort of everybody's broken until we fix it. Now, I don't know, maybe we can go through just for an exercise. Let's make it fix it in a way that we don't break it for any length of time. Okay, so one way to do that, well, let's see, I think one way to do that is start introducing new functions, put them in all the children. I don't know if I can do this. Scenario. Can I have two different return values? That seems unlikely. Okay. All right, let's get another way. If I can make it a one-line change, that's kind of good. Tab alias scenarios 2 equals set of scenario. How's that? If I return that, is that acceptable? Yeah, okay, good. Let's make that change. Okay. Now, I guess let's find usage on this. Well, they do a fair bit, don't they? I don't know. Am I gonna rename this? I don't know. There may not be a good way. What I wanted to try was these return scenarios 2. Let's see what they're actually returning. And it's returning that. I don't know. I think I'm making things harder than they need to be. Let's try a rename and see what it does if I tell it just call it scenarios. Now, that's going away. All right, now it should complain. Yeah, so let's make this be scenarios of that. Because we can take, okay, we'll make an array of original scenarios. No. To expected type int. It looks like an expected type array of scenario to me. And scenarios is a set. I don't know what's the problem if I say array. Can I do this? That didn't seem so happy a minute ago. I'm not sure what the deal was. All right, let's do this. Set of result. What is result? Okay, we're finally getting a benefit. It's already an array, so we'll return scenarios of that. All right, now why this is optional? Connect array type array of scenarios to expected type array of scenario. Oh. I'm a little confused. Okay, so let's see what result is. Cannot convert array of type array of scenarios to return type scenarios. True. But if I do scenarios, he takes an array of scenarios. Oh, he takes an array of scenario. Result dot scenario takes array of scenario. Result is array of scenarios. Do I need an extra flat map? I don't see why. Result is array of scenarios. Okay. He's still array of scenarios, huh? And let's just take this one out for a minute and see what we got. Array of scenarios. This is array of scenarios. Child scenarios of array of scenario. I think that's okay. Well, let's take result, map each one $0 dot scenarios. I want to get through it and then we'll straighten it out. Array of set of scenario. Jeez. What is the type of this? Scenarios is set of scenario. I'm gonna start again. I think I've confused myself in an unacceptable way. Okay, so we still have scenarios owns a list. Well, it owns a set of scenarios. Okay, so my big plan is make this thing return scenarios. This one's returning set of scenario. And we're going to say return scenarios of original.scenarios. Oh, we put that in an array. Okay, that one should be good. All right. This one should return scenarios. Okay, that is scenarios of array of scenarios. Okay, then we go through all its children. And we well, I don't know what we're doing there. But this should be return scenarios of array. Scenarios.scenarios. Right, that should be okay. All right. And this is the tricky one in a lot of ways. Okay. Why flat map all of a sudden decides these could be empty? I don't know. But anyway, the result is a list of scenarios. That each of which is a set of scenario. Okay. So this, this is array of scenarios. And what I really want to do is, okay, I think I can map it if I take result dot, well, scenario list is going to be result, and then I'm going to map each one to $0 dot scenarios array of that dot flat map that. And then this is scenarios of scenario list. Okay. Again, I don't know the flat map problem. Like this one's not complaining, and yet somehow this one is. but I think it'll come out eventually. No exact matches to call to initializer. Oh, these have results now or something. Array of result. Result is a scenarios. And I'm pushing this stuff out now, which may be bad. So I'm making this variable more public, which is not ideal. But eventually it will go away. So I'm hoping we can make things all right. So that's scenarios. We'll let scenarios equal that and let result equal scenarios.scenarios in an array. Okay, cannot convert scenarios to return type set of scenario. Oh, okay, that's a good sign. Trailing white space, you're not supposed to leave that in there on me. Stupid Xcode editor. Okay, I still don't know why that one's a little funny. And you can see Xcode doesn't really build the tests until it has to. So we often fix stuff and then find out, oh, all the tests are broken too. Okay, well, for what it's worth, I apparently didn't make big mistakes on doing this. I tried to be systematic, but I don't know. We haven't been here that long. It hasn't been a total mess. All right, so scenarios, where are you? All right. So self. Yeah, okay. So now, well, the only uses are going to be this stuff, right? So let's find the usages of this. All right. Scenarios. For a leaf, if we've got two scenarios, we put in both. They should be the same. Okay, I almost think the asserts should be better though. Oops. Yeah. The net 12, net 13, so they're being treated the same. So he's essentially not quite iterating over them, but looking at all the contents for a test. This one's doing similar. This one is doing similar in a more complicated way. And this one's doing similar. So given the scenarios, I want to ask for an array of the results. Okay, now this one, oops, sorry. iterating over the scenarios and adding a stream. Okay, so this, so this is the leaf. I mean, could I add a stream to each scenario in original scenarios? This might be a case for that. So I think this should just be add stream to scenarios, and stream is passed in. Yeah, he knows stream. Okay, so let's pull this method over to scenarios, and I'm not clear if scenarios is picking up the right functions, I guess, the right dependencies doing this. But what we want to do is pass in a stream of type stream. And if we were doing this in here, well, we don't need original anymore. Scenarios for each stream. And then I guess we're saying it returns itself. I guess. Let's see if that. Okay, so that's there. Now plan tree. All right, so we're calling this, and what I want to do is call original.add of stream. Okay, so scenarios add stream. Okay, so all right, let's make sure that's still above board. All right, let's commit that. Now returning scenarios rather than set of scenario, and moved plan leaf.scenarios, or made plan leaf scenarios call scenarios.add of stream. Okay, so I think what this is saying is, given a bunch of scenarios, if I want to add a stream, I'm going to add that stream to each scenario. This is what I do. Okay. Now, streams returning the same thing back doesn't really, well, I don't know, maybe that's okay for now. I mean, somebody's calling this, right, is, yeah, I think other people, the end and ors are going to call that, right? Their children could be a leaf, and they need to know what the stream is at that point. Okay, I think it's okay. It could be that we need to make a new scenarios for that. Let's do it that way for now. Well, no. I'm trying to play it safe with kind of keeping the exact semantics I had. Let's let result equal scenarios with scenarios. So that should copy them. And again, the array's here for now, but long run, maybe not. Okay, so scenarios for each, and then return result. All right, let's make sure that's okay. I don't think that'll have a problem if the other one didn't, but that's why we run the tests. So we make scenarios.add return a new scenarios. Okay. Go back to my find. All right, that's a test. That's plan tree. Okay, we made that one better. Now this one. So I think in this case, plan composite is really Antree's version of this. If there are no children, then just we don't really need to rebuild this, that, and the other. I think we'll just return what we got. Return scenarios. And then for each child, we're calling child.scenarios. Okay, so I guess this is a group kind of thing. It's saying copy a scenario for each child with the original set of scenarios. And then the array of that, I don't know, is that doing anything? We create these scenarios. Because the children may come up with all kinds of crazy scenarios. I don't know. And doing this to get that just seems funny. It's like these ought to really be accumulated. Let's treat this like a map. Result equals map. Children dot map. Okay, and then that should give us an array of scenarios. Okay. I don't think that's going to fail differently, but I think if we return, we should be returning that result. Why aren't you complaining about result? That's weird. All right. But the children, when they get going, right, they're going to call recursively. I mean, this 84 is a recursive call, and that each one of those could accumulate different things. I think this should be I think it should be converted again. Map that to $0. So that's array of scenarios. I don't know. I want to map him and get all those individual scenarios out of that. So I guess the way we've done it so far is, well, so far our result was array of scenarios. So each one of those gets mapped into array of $0.scenarios. And now result is an array of array. Yep. And we do it's an array of scenario. Yeah, good. And then a flat map $0. Okay. And now this can be result. I think that's an improvement. Apparently not. Okay. Let's revert all that. That should be green again. All right. I don't know. Let's look at this one again. Golly. So what's bad to me is having to ask for scenarios all the time. Well, anytime we go scenario something.scenarios, then we're pulling out its stuff. Okay, and that feels wrong. But this, so do you have the information? I guess you would have to pass the children, because this is one scenario. Well, this is array of scenarios. I don't know. It still feels, I feel like we're not flattening something at the right place here somehow. Like, I would like to know, this is for one scenario. Let's extract this and see what happens. I think we can make things better. Okay, so we need children. And they are array of plan tree. Do we know at this point? Well, we know they're array of plan tree. Hmm. Well, this is more like belongs on a scenario. And what I don't like is we're making the recursion in here in line 20. Now it's mutual recursion. That seems a little harder to understand. Yeah, if it's, this really belongs on scenario, and I think it makes sense. Well, what we're saying is, I want you to build. Here, you're a scenario. I want you to tell me what are all the scenarios that happen if you take these children and deal with the consequences of them. So let's move the whole thing over to scenario. But it's also weird, right? Just in terms of who depends on what. Now I've got scenarios. I'm sorry, scenario depending on its parent. And depending on plan tree, right? So it's like he's got very snoopy stuff going on. All right, so this would be self. Okay. So cannot return. And I think he's returning array of scenario, right? Yeah. No, it's scenarios. This is. Well, I'm not sure. I've been studying functional category theory stuff and trying to get a better handle on functional programming. And it's like, I can't explain to you what a monad is, but I think this is a place that needs one because we find ourselves taking apart data structures, doing stuff and putting them back in data structures. And we're getting stuck going between the scenario and the list of scenarios and the set of scenarios, around and around between all those. And that to me says somebody's making something's wrong. And I'm worried that flattening this out is just going to replicate that problem because I don't know. This seems very odd to me to have it know the children. And what are we doing with the scenario? We're making copies of it. I mean, he's not doing anything, right? He's We're not accessing anything about those independent scenarios other than their existence. So that feels very odd to me. Like the reason to have it in here and do it to scenarios first. Well, this is this thing to distinguish scenario from scenarios from array of scenario from array of scenarios, right? That's where it's all getting kind of bundled. Copies creates a bunch of scenarios, yes. Start adding do it to scenarios first. Okay, yeah, let's do that because this the only thing it's doing with the scenario is copying it, so it has no special knowledge of any of the other stuff going on with it, right? It's just duplicating it. So yeah, let's take this out. I think I still left it in scenarios. Is But we need the scenario too now. So it's almost like this. I don't know. I want to change it into returning. I want scenarios to give me an array. Pass the children into copies and let copies add the children to the scenarios. Yeah. But I don't know. I want to see if there's a way to untwist it. I also think this routine was not. It wasn't such smooth sailing. I could believe we did something a hard way or a wrong way even. So what? Let's see what this is saying. This is saying, I want you to take a scenario. Yeah, it clearly has nothing to do with scenarios. Well, this is returning the array of scenarios. And what do we have back in plan tree? Okay, I've left everything there. Good. Okay, I'm gonna talk my way through the whole method now and see if I believe it. So scenarios, in this case, we're doing or tree, which says every one of my children should make a new scenario. Yeah, what are we gonna add to what else? Well, I mean this is definitely like if you have children and you're an or, this is the bifurcation. We split and say, make copies of yourself, and now all your individual children, they may have totally different trees underneath them. I got the tree upside down thing going, but your children of your or, they may have their own ors and ands and whatevers. They'll add different stuff, and once they do, the fact that we had to split their scenario list into two scenario lists is fine. Now, what I think one missing concept may be we should be able to take a scenarios and add it to another scenarios. There should be a union kind of thing, with scenarios with the S, the collection should be able to take another collection of scenario and join them, and that's just really add them to the list, kind of thing. All right, now what am I actually doing here? I'm saying you gave me a bunch of scenarios. I'm supposed to take each one of those and split it one per child of mine. All right, so we take a scenario and right, this scenarios, we'd like our other thing to be doing that. But maybe this is just for each, or scenarios dot for each. Would I do that? That's not so bad. All right, but given a scenario, what you should do is you should copy the scenario once for every child, and then we're going to match each child with an independent story, an independent scenario, and for each of them, we're going to calculate its scenarios. We're going to ask it for what are your scenarios given these input scenarios. Now, array of scenario, where is that coming from? I guess that's just because scenarios wants an array, but we just have the scenario, one of the independent ones. Okay, and then once you get all those back, you've got a bunch of scenarios. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so the the normal case, if I could say, let's say you've got some sort of tree constructed. Somebody adds a leaf. They're saying implicitly add it to all the existing scenario. They add an or. You're saying for each existing scenario, split it apart, duplicate it, and deal with the consequences of each of its children. And that all seems okay. I think, though, should childs be added to the independent ones? Now, add the independent to the children. So child scenario says you're giving me a starting point for my additions, which we always get a bunch of scenarios because there may have been or tree in the past. The child's going to say, "Okay, you gave me a bunch of scenario, and I will deal with my consequences, and whatever the consequences are, I'll give you back the set of scenarios that result." Now they may not, if he's not doing any more of his own or tree stuff, it's just going to be extending the scenario that's already there. But because we're creating new ones here, that's fine. They're not going to interfere with each other. All right, but I'm thinking like this flat map that's falling flat. It's telling me I'm working with things at too low a level or something. And maybe this thing of bouncing back and forth between a scenario, a list of scenarios, and a scenarios object. All right, so what does child scenarios do with scenarios you pass it? Yeah, so they might either append to it. Okay, if it's just a simple leaf, they'll append to it. If it's an and group, they'll take each of those and go to it. Feels backwards. Well, this is, I don't know, my directions are getting weird. It always is weird to me that the root of the tree is at the top and the things are at the bottom. So I'm probably flipping something, but let's take the root at the top, and if you're just going with flat scenarios, the leaf scenarios, and this is saying, income 1, 100, income 2, 1,000, income 3, 500. We're just adding these things in. And we only started with one scenario. We're just adding that to that scenario. Because they're just like there's no choice, and that scenario is going to get them. All right. So at some point though, we do an or, and we're saying, okay, I got two possible futures. I'm going to take the existing scenario, which is my best understanding so far. I'll copy it, and then my resulting scenarios is not that original scenario modified. It's a set of scenarios or a list of scenarios or a scenarios object. It's something that has a bunch of scenarios in it because I had to do the OR tree thing and generate possible futures. And then each of them, if they've got leaves underneath them, it's all straightforward. At some point they get an or, it bifurcates. An and is really not different than a leaf. It's just saying I'm going to send you some leaves or bifurcation later. So I don't know. I think that part's okay. But I think, let's see, what I'm coming to is like maybe there's a notion of our scenarios object. I think if you said he represents a list of scenarios, now sometimes we might have to copy it, but most of the time we're kind of accumulating into that list, right? So I think I want to do a merge, because this thing coming back from the child.scenarios, right? That gives us a scenarios object. And I don't even know if I need the flat map. I don't even know if it gives me anything. Let's see what happens. Array of scenarios. Array of scenarios. Sorry, was that array of scenario or scenarios? Various scenarios. I don't think that's giving me anything. Let's try that. No. I'm gonna take this out. Okay. Let me minor editing. I don't think we've done anything, but I just don't want to lose what there is. Okay. Why are you uncommitted? No changes. Okay, that's better. Right. So what if scenarios knew how to take another scenarios and merge it? It's really union, I guess, because it's not like some overlap or anything. Or add. Take this scenarios, add that scenarios. Now you have a new scenarios. All right, let's try that. Now this add, the nice thing there is running through those. We're saying adding to the set of scenarios to the set of scenarios is basically just adding to each one. That feels like the kind of thing we would like to say. All right, but I'm going to make another function. I don't know if this is refactoring exactly. Maybe it is merge. Other of scenarios. Merge? I don't know. We kind of say add for that, right? If you take a list, another list that add that list to take all its elements. Okay. Right. So if we do that and I say scenarios dot add append. Wait a minute. Other. No, it's scenarios dot union. Right, we're set now. So okay, so union of other dot scenarios. Okay. And this returns, well, I don't think union's working the way I want it to. Right, I want something different. I thought there was an in-place one. Form union, yeah. Right, okay, cool. Okay, so let's try this in here. Can I make that work better? So child.scenarios returns scenarios. Okay, yeah. So I got a list of scenarios. Scenarios for children. Okay, I think this is going to help. All right, let me try this. So if I did reduce scenarios, I'm going to start with an empty list. And then so far and scenario in. All right. So remember, this is kind of the reduces, takes the sort of initial value and then pretends, I think of it for plus. It sort of like inserts the plus between the whole list of things and then does the work of adding them. Now, union is not done with a plus, so I think but conceptually it's a 2-argument function, right? So given the union so far, no, you're not really a problem yet. He's only a problem because he doesn't know it. That's a scenarios, so we'll say so far dot add, add scenarios. That's a scenarios. All right, then let's make sure that is scenarios. No. Okay. Are you just not aware of this one? Cannot get valuables into clear types. Okay, let's see if that's enough to get some types. So far as a scenarios object, yes. Scenarios should be a scenarios object, right? Well, let me just do a build. Maybe this would do nothing. Okay, so that's exceeded. I still think this should be okay. Cannot convert value of type null to closure type, result type scenarios. So the problem is so far does not produce scenarios, which is what it needs to keep going. So let's make it return after all. I don't think we're not hitting performance problems yet. We may, but because you're doing these combinations. But now we're saying create an actual separate scenarios object. Cannot convert set of scenario to return type. Oh, so that gives me that, and I'm going to return scenarios of all that. Okay, so union their content. Oh man, come on. Scenarios. Okay. He's set of scenario, so I should. Oh, I have to do array. And I'll call this merged. All right, now that should go away. Okay, so this scenarios for children should be a scenarios now. That's better. Okay. Yeah, I think this will help that process. Now we got scenarios.map. All right, let's take the flat map off and let's see what we can get for scenarios. Map result. Come on. Is array of scenarios. All right, let's make sure this works. I think it did. Okay, so Scenarios for Children is a scenarios. I think. Well, I think it's a step forward. Give scenarios and add to get the merger of two, and use that in plan composite. It's a little generic, but okay. So this part, well, this, okay, we zip them and map them. All right, but anyway, Scenarios for Children is an actual scenarios object, so that's good. Now I think the problem is this one is mapping and flat mapping, and then doing the result thing at the end there. All right, I think we can do the same kind of thing. And then once we can do that, that feels like it's almost like there should be a constructor for something. I don't know. All right. So how would I turn this into a reduce? Scenarios map. Well, I think I'm saying reduce. Again, start out with an empty list of scenarios. And this is scenarios result. I'm going to say that for now. Scenarios so far and another scenario. And now results type is a scenarios. So that's getting rid of this stuff if it works. Okay, so let's return result. Well, let me just return result and then copy this part out. Okay, so using reduce again, which I think is the least intuitive of the kind of pipeline operators, but let's make sure this works. Right, because he's not doing anything. He's not. This, we're returning scenarios for children. We shouldn't return it. We should return scenarios so far, add the children scenarios. Okay, I think that's what makes sense to me. We've got to use scenarios so far because we're building up our list of total scenarios. And the individual scenario. Okay, let's see if I'm right. Okay, so I think get right and then we'll fix it from there. Use reduce to build a scenario result in plan composite. Now, I think what would help is if there's that's a lot going on, you know. So that's the part that's tricky. Okay, well, let's clean this out. Okay, so I don't think the reduce so far thing is so bad. All right, so I'm going to try and say in words what it's doing and then see if what makes sense. Well, no, I know what makes sense. This, let's extract that here. Okay, can I make a extract method? Can you do that for me? No, you can't. Okay, so this computation is a thing, and let's see if we can say what it is. So I'll just say do it for a moment, and that, and then I need this. So I'm going to need children. I'm going to need a scenario, and then return scenarios for children. All right, so we're kind of been here before, but a scenario of type scenario and the children of type array of plan type, plan tree. Okay, unexpected non-mode return. Well, what is this thing's type? Scenarios, good. Everybody's returning scenarios. Okay, and this is well, it's something like scenarios for children. Okay, and now I should be able to do that here. Scenarios for children, a scenario, and children. All right, that should give us that. These are scenarios. Oh, new scenarios. Okay, I don't know. Is this going somewhere okay? All right, so now we're saying I want you to accumulate all the scenarios from the children. Or you generate scenarios for each shot for all the children for this scenario. So for a scenario. So run through everything. Run through all the scenarios in the set. Generate whatever new scenarios they have. And build a new scenarios object out of that. Okay. All right, let's make sure that's still sensible. All right, now scenarios for children. I keep going back to how I got to say it to myself to convince myself it's all making sense. Okay, we're going to run through each scenario. So to build an OR tree, you're given whatever's happened so far at the root has generated some scenarios for you. Now you want to make sure that for each of those scenarios, it's going to get replaced by a set of scenarios for each child. And they're all going to be their starting point is the A scenario, but they need to build their own brand new scenarios. And so we'll accumulate those for those children and accumulate them into the result. Okay, so I don't know, reduce is, I always have to think of reduce, like I have to think about it. It's easy when it's reduce 0 plus, you've got a list of integers and you just want to do stuff to them. But as you get bigger, I don't want it to be that much bigger though. And I almost could inline this. Let's see if that feels good or not. So now you could see this as almost being plus, right? It's like scenarios for children. It's scenarios so far plus scenarios for children. Okay. And I don't know, maybe this is a place that an operator would almost make sense, that plus scenarios gives you a bunch of new scenarios. All right. Now the children, I keep feeling we can do better with this. Yeah, let me try a different view of this. So I think okay, I'm gonna make hide this for a moment. Okay, so the independent scenarios. I want to go off the children instead. So I can say children dot, and then I want to map them. Okay, so the children map is, I want to do child scenarios for, and let's do a scenario dot copies of 1. So I'm trying to figure out if it makes just as much sense to copy each one there like that. Okay, so children, take the list of children, walk through all the children, and generate a new copy of a scenario for them. Child.scenarios, scenarios.copy. Well, I don't want to put it in scenarios. But I kind of have to. Okay, so that says take the children. I don't know. It's my better one. Okay, children, gonna map them to this, and then reduce. Then I think the rest is the same. Cannot convert value of type a scenario. Oh, that's already an array. That's goofy, but okay. Okay, I think that's simpler. Wait, so take the children, map each one to whatever scenarios that child generates given the starting point of the current scenario, a copy of the current scenario. And then take all those scenarios objects, merge them together. Okay, does that work? I don't know how they like these. Is it like this? That's how I want them. Okay. Right. Now, can you call add instead of reduce? I don't think so. Well, okay, there's a way to flip. Okay, so if you have a function that's adding a bunch of things, you can change it into a function that says add yourself to this. Passing in an extra argument. Let's see if we can do it. So I think it'll come closer to what you're suggesting. Improve calculation of new scenarios for an OR tree. Okay, and so the thing I'm talking about, it's to say you've got a function that's accumulating stuff, and you accumulate all these, and then you go back and add them into the thing from before. But what you're doing instead is, what if we passed a new argument that said, what should you add this to? And now the reduce, it flips both the caller and the callee. So it's a little funny, but let's see if this is accumulator, and I often see it spelled like that, just accum, is scenarios. Okay, so what if we were saying, what I want you to do is add the result of your calculation for these children to the accumulator. No, I'm using Mac OS, and I definitely don't know how to help you with that stuff, but welcome anyway. A little off topic for what we're up to. Okay, so given the accumulator, then, I mean, I clearly could, well, reduce, let's change this into for each. Well, the simple change is this, reduce accumulator so far, and that, but that means these are not the new ones, it's all of them. And he doesn't really need to return these, right? Because he's just accumulating into them. So this is more like for each, and then accumulator. I guess I could just use $0. Accumulator dot add of scenarios. So we're just saying calculate accumulators of scenarios, scenario, $0. I well, let's see if it's worth pursuing. I think because if I can get rid of these, then all right. So now this, right? So I think I can get rid of the map. I'm going to move the for each up, and for each child, I'm going to say let new scenarios equal that, and then accumulator dot add of new scenarios. Now we still have the extra, but I think all our adds are going to be like this, so we can get rid of them in the end. Okay, so I think that's, I mean, ignore up here, but at least so far, I think we're saying for each child, generate your new scenarios and add it to the accumulator, and that seems right. And the result of this is the accumulator is bigger. All right, now here, let's let's rename this is add child scenarios. Okay, so here we're going to start with result equals scenarios, and then now we're back to this scenarios dot for each do something. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to do scenarios for children with result and that. Okay. And it's getting rid of reduces, which is always a good thing. Add child scenarios. And I don't know if that's even... Well, let's spell it out. Okay, let's see if it works. But I mean, if this works, I think it is simpler. We took one huge loop, broke it apart. Okay, it's not working. Go back. Index out of range. 0 not equal to 2. Okay, let's by entry. Okay, I think I can revert if I need to. Result of scenarios for everything in scenarios. Oh. No. We're running through the given scenarios, adding the child scenarios to the result. For the child, each child generates his scenario with a brand new copy and then we add new scenarios. Is this worth debugging? Okay, so we failed this already, 0. Okay, it's OR tree that's falling apart, so that kind of makes sense. All right, so result, we give it an initial scenario. And we get the result back from the array. Okay, yeah. Then the multiple series, 0 is not equal to 4. Oh, so I'm not adding something somewhere. Debugging's too much to think about it. Let's take a break first, and then we'll take a peek and see if it looks like it's doing the right thing, and if not, we'll revert. All right, so see you in 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll come back and tackle this. All right, welcome back. Okay, so let's figure out which test is failing. Well, they're both producing a list of 0 results, so that's super suspicious. How did these fail? Oh, result contains. Yeah, it's an empty one. Okay, so this one fails because we actually try and grab the particular things when we expect to. I think this one's simpler. It's just one node with 2 children, and we're passing in one initial scenario. Okay, so let's run this test. Let's set a breakpoint in here. Plan composite, I guess right about there. Okay, so now we should have an empty list of scenarios coming in. Or yeah, sorry, one scenario, the initial scenario, empty, but one of them. Okay, and so we're going to run through for each scenario in that list. Okay, let's break here. Okay, so we've got the one scenario. And we got result with nothing in it. Okay, and we're going to step in. And we know what result is. Scenario should be that E4AD. A scenario. Okay, and then children, there should be 2 of them. Okay, 0 and 1. Income 1, income 2. Good. All right. So children for each. Let's continue. Okay, so the child is probably income 1. Yep. Okay, so we're going to take child scenarios with scenario copies 1. Well, I'm going to step over and see what we get. So let's see, new scenarios. Should be a 1 scenario thing. If it's 0, we're in trouble. Okay, it's got income 1. That's the one thing. Well, that seems fine. Sorry, let me look at scenarios. Our ad. Oh, we can't throw that away. Okay. We could if it was the form union thing I did earlier. Now, is it okay to be destructive on that? Hmm. All right. Plan tree. Yeah, so it certainly seems bad luck to throw that away. Accumulator.add is producing a new thing. So that's, I think we need to go back to that form union. Well, if that's all it is, I don't need to say. Return. Okay, I don't think there's a lot of places calling this. All right, so. Oops, can't do that. Okay. Is it simpler? Okay, well, this is saying you're adding those scenarios to me. That seems fine. That we have to be careful to create a new scenario at the right time, though, and I'm not sure that. Well, it does come through here. Right. So an and tree can build on the existing one, and I'm not sure we're doing the best way there. But the or tree has to start a brand new scenarios list, because the whatever scenario you have, you're going to throw it away and generate multiple children for it. So we don't want to keep the original one. It's only going to be partial if it doesn't have the contents of the children. All right, now, am I believing all this? Okay, and is it simpler? I think it's simpler to calculate the scenarios for a composite or tree, generate a new list, go through the existing scenarios you were given, and ask each for all the children, add in their scenarios. So every existing one is going to generate in new ones for the number of children, and we'll add them all in and accumulate them in result. And that's the accumulator here. Okay, and he's given the children. So for each child, create a copy and add that result. I think that's not bad. I think it's easier to understand than the original. I guess that's the big thing. I'm still not 100% sure I know. Like, we're driving from the scenario. Like, could we go the other way? Go from the children? Yeah. So I think the alternative, um, or an alternative, would be for each do it the children at the top level. So for each child, I want you to take every scenario and generate a new scenario for that child. It's still a double loop. It's just whether you think we drive from the scenarios to the children. Yeah, we should simplify that. And I don't think, yeah, we changed add and nobody complained. So that fits this thing. Um, let's make sure there's no other usages. Okay, well, he just does copies one. All right, let's do this first. And the test is calling one, so he can do that. And scenario plan tree is calling one, so he can do that. All right. And then scenarios. Sorry, where's copies? Copies, count equals one. Now I can take this off. That's one. Rename this to copy. All right, and then there's only one, so we return scenario.self, array of scenario.self. Now we make it return no scenario. All right, that should find those two places. Copy. There's no first. And this copy, he wants a list still. I'm not sure that's absolutely permanent. Okay. That one's okay. Where was scenario? Copy builds a scenario from an existing one by copying it. Okay. Good, good. All right. So okay. Well, now, after all that, I think we're still in the situation that we're doing stuff on scenarios. And that's the thing I want to avoid. But like each one, right. So I kind of want to flip it, I think, right? Because iterating, the more stuff, the the more stuff in the scope of this, the more that pushes into our scenarios object. And really, um, he shouldn't know about this stuff. I mean, this is not digging through children and making copies and all that. That is not a job for scenarios. And I really, my goal was to get rid of this. And I wonder if we just made scenarios iterable, and would that solve this? Um, and I think it might. Um, let's see the usages of this again. Okay, there's a bunch here. Okay. Well, this if this were a sequence, right, or iterable, I'm not sure how you languages kind of accumulate methods. I think Java has about six. But to get being able to make a list and turn it into an array, a sequence, um, then it would just be array of scenarios. All right, and that would be those, and they all seem to be doing that same kind of thing. This one, well, there it is again. A lot of arrays of scenarios. Oh, well, this. Okay, that's very suspicious. Okay, well, that's local though. Oh, no, it's not, is it? Wait a minute, what is this one? Oh, that's the one we just been doing. Okay, yeah, scenarios of array.scenarios. Seems like you could just be scenarios of scenarios and make a copy. Okay. Um, oh, this is plain composite. Okay, so this is the entry version. Oh, okay. Array. Array. Right, so scenarios were iterable, that would be fine. Or if we just said like scenarios knows how to build. Wait a minute. If you take the stuff inside scenarios and you put it in an array and then you put it in scenarios, you don't touch it. I think we can just return scenarios now. So we're saying if you've got an OR tree with no children, like the scenarios are untouched, so don't do anything. All right, so all right, that took care of one. All right, now query. Scenarios.forEach. Okay, that one did. I think he needs to rebuild. Let's repeat the search. For split. Nope. All right, let's see this. All right, so he's doing that. Right, so I guess the question is for iterable, if you could just directly, if this were a sequence, scenarios were a sequence, then you could just pass that sequence, pass result to an array without having to get that explicitly. Okay, and I think the test that was all those. Same here. You might be able to do better than that. All right, now this one we can build from a list. That's private. Okay, maybe we're getting there. Plan.scenarios. of scenarios for a scenario. Okay, so that's the possibilities. This is the top level call. All right, and that does not use dot scenarios. So where are you showing it to me? Oh, plan dot scenarios. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's dot scenarios. All right, now plan tree dot scenarios of scenarios. What is $0 is a child? Scenarios array of scenarios dot scenarios sounds like just scenarios again. But okay, we didn't look at this one too hard. Okay. Okay, let's go to this one. Find who's accessing this directly. Test this. I want to, well, my theory is inline this and see about flipping the loops. But let's keep going. Scenarios, yeah, you do what you want. Scenarios, this test, right. All right, now I started to look it up and I kind of lost myself. Swift implement sequence. I think you just give it a make iterator method, right? Is that the deal? No, that's the iterator. No. Conforming to the sequence protocol. Okay, so this is the iterable protocol. If your type connects its own, implement iterator protocol and declare conforms to sequence and iterator protocol. I could have sworn there was a different way to do that. Mutating function next. Yeah, that's, you've got your own. Yeah, there's another way. I should see one of a different color because I did find something. I don't know if I had to write my own iterator thing. What is it in Swift? Is it iterable? Make iterator Swift. And this is the one I want to do because I just want to delegate it. For each iterator, return an iterator over the elements of a collection. Well, they seem to have a lot of explanations from Apple for a change. Is it once for dictionary, once for list, once for string? But this gives you conformance to something. Iterated protocol, that's kind of what I was thinking of. Everybody wants to do countdown. Like, I want to do delegating. All right, animals. Behind the scenes, it uses the animals make iterator. All right, now we had that here. Excuse me. And dictionary must conform to something, right? You should be telling me what that is. Collection? Sequence. Oh, there it is. To add sequence to your custom type add make iterator that returns an iterator. Okay, that's what I want. All right. So if scenarios has make iterator, yielding some sort of iterator, I'll just say end for a minute here, because all I want to do is do scenarios.iterator. Make iterator. Whoops. I have to look at that. Set of scenario.iterator. Okay. Now, and then this should be able to conform to sequence. Okay, and the test is, can I just call this with result? Good, okay. Boom. No changes. Okay, I think I took the commit. Did I lose that? Yeah. All right, so this one we just got rid of. This. Okay, that's good. He's not doing that. He's doing child.scenarios, not scenarios.scenarios. He's doing that. Okay, so I don't know if that was all tests. Okay, now this one, child scenarios. So in this sense, we should just be able to do this. Now I don't know if that's still better to be iterating over scenarios than children versus children than scenarios. All right, let's take this one. That's internal. So scenarios. Okay, so I think we may have done it. All right, so I should be able to say private on this to emphasize that I don't want you going around grabbing stuff out. So that's the encapsulation. After all that, some of that time was spent reorganizing the child method, the OR tree method, but the end result is this thing is no longer revealed. All right, so finished encapsulation of Scenarios.scenarios. Okay, and I guess what I was saying on plan tree, if we were to, well, we could inline this. It'd be scenarios for each, children for each, and then do the stuff. I don't think that's so bad. Let's try it. Accumulators result. I can kind of see this. Now, yeah, I mean, I think it's a doubly nested loop with two lines in the middle. And you could even inline that if you wanted to, but I think it reads better like this. I will accept this. I think we'll move on. Assuming it works. Right. The only other open thing to me on that, if I could flip the loop, let's try that experiment. I want to flip the loop. Yeah, if I can remember. Isn't it? No. Sorry, what's my swap? Let's try it like that. So now we're walking through all the children, and for each scenario, we're doing something with the child. And so the question to me would be, should this loop be a method on scenarios? But he's got result, which is also scenarios. So I think that would be a little confusing. Yeah, make sure that works. But okay, I'll let it go. Yeah, and in both cases, my concern is it's like, why should scenarios know about child, right? That just seems not right. um, it doesn't know anything about. I mean, scenario's job is to hold scenario, a list of, or an array or something of scenario, and it doesn't need to know about child. And it's a little weird that it has to be passed a list of scenarios, but we're only passing one. Who's calling that constructor? Let's see if that's suspicious. Oh, everybody. Okay, we got a test that generates two scenarios. This one does not. This one does not. Right. Even this one, right? We're knowing about streams. That's part of scenarios, so it's sort of connected, but it's kind of not. I don't know. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna let it go. Start something else. All right, so change return values, eliminate external access. Yeah, that's the two things we did. That's good. All right, so we fully, basically, this is encapsulate is the real word I should use here. We took something that was exposed and its type was exposed and all that, and now it's not. All right, now graph scenarios from the concrete plans. All right, yeah, this is where it's getting real because today, let's go back and find that chart. It's in content view. Where do you get your scenarios to graph? Well, you ask possibilities to project things out. Now, he creates a bunch of net worth data. And what I would like to do is delegate that. Well, yeah, he creates. I would certainly like to be able to ask a scenario, right? What's your net worth in this month? All right, do we have that yet? I think we do. All right. So if you ask scenarios for the equivalent of this data, project, well, I guess the test would be something about I want to project, instead of calling possibilities and getting one graph, I want to project on scenarios and get a whole bunch more. Now, net worth data, so maybe what we do is a little research. So this is for one stream, one graph of stuff. But I think we need maybe array of net worth data. All right, so let's find Swift chart example. And I know I saw good ones the other day. I think, was it this one? Somebody did almost every kind of chart. All right, if I can quickly find a multi-line graph chart like this. All right, so his data is array of type and pet data, where the type is the label. We haven't dealt with labels yet, but we could. All right, and then his chart, he runs through data, getting the id. Okay. And then for each data series, what's data series? There's data. Oh, data series is is one of these. Okay. Right, so that sort of says array of array or array of pair. We need to distinguish these possibilities because he requires an ID. Okay, so I guess what that says to me is the scenarios, I want him to be able to give me that data. And where's project possibilities? Get that over here. Okay, so possibilities, project gets that. And then what we can do, well, maybe we can do it right here. Let's take this out. Let's make it return a pair, which is, what was their example? They had type and yeah, these are a name tuple. Okay, so let's give it a name of string and a data of net worth data. Okay, now it's kind of an array of an array. Let's just put it in there like that. Cannot convert value of type net worth data. Oh. Okay, and then let's go to content view, possibility project sub 0. And let's preview that. Oh, you don't like that. Okay. Data sub 0 dot last dot data dot amount. A little bit of a train wreck there. Okay. All right. So make graph work with array of data in the most primitive way possible. All right, but we can work on that. Okay, so now at the same indentation level. That looks the same to me. Are you still a violation? It's so hard to tell. Okay, so now I want to make this a little more like the other. So they do chart data series. Okay, so chart. That's the data is the whole thing. That's the whole thing. ID is name. Now these are one level up, so we got to do a for each. For each data series dot data. Data in line mark X. Value month, whatever. Right. That's outside the for each. Pet type. Symbol value of pet type. I guess this is name scenario. Data series dot type was name. Oops. Okay, so we're trying to make it now be multiple series. Even though we only have one in our current list. Slow. All right, here it comes. Strikes me as odd. Let's do a run. Oh, that's the default symbol. Yeah, so there's data. I don't know where data is coming from. Right, but I think the symbol by. Well, it's not quite wrong. Let's add something. I'm being very generous to myself. $50,000 a month. What the heck? Okay. Now, I think we can control those symbols. Is done with this, and I don't know how it decides that. Now, for us, it's because we're plotting. Well, that's just a line mark. I'm confused because I guess this is what you get out of the box. Chart X scale. Oh, that's something I could put. Goes on the chart. Let's run that. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know why it's only 120. I'll take that pay cut. Okay. 3.0 E6. That's 360. Something's only running to 120, I think. Yeah. That should be pulled out. Okay, that's a little more plausible. It's still, you can tell it's little hollow circles. And I think that's kind of what he's got going here, right? It's like I would have thought line mark. I thought you had to have a separate circle mark or something for that. Um, had to tell this to treat as two different foreground style by two different series. Yes, that's definitely something we want. Pet type. Right. Well, this is probably the same thing. Now, I don't know if there's just a simple line chart. There's bar mark. Bar. Well, that's line mark. That's the one I would rather have. Left center line marker. I don't think that's right. I think it's line mark, isn't it? Yeah. Ooh, what's that series called? Let's go read about this. Huh. That's almost unreadable to me. Okay. Right. Why do I have those circles on it? I don't want that. X, Y, S. Separate line for each unique values of a series. Am I missing that in my example? X, Y. He is not putting it there. And showing symbol markers. Oh, that's what I don't want. Yeah. All right. Let's take a look and then we'll call it a day here. Okay, I'm getting something, but I'm not getting quite what I want. We'll stop there. Um, oh no, I am. Yeah, I've only got one graph, and I'm calling it data. I don't know. We put that in the um, possibilities, right? Yeah, so that's why it's data. Okay, well, that gives us, yeah, with simple spec. Thank you. um, it gives us a starting point for next time. So what we'll try and do is we'll move this over to some scenarios, the collection, and make it return a list of something more like this, um, with one for each scenario. And once we have that, yeah, we'll have to have unique names. And we don't have any names yet, so I'll generate something for starters. What I have in mind is that um, and the name for, well, I don't know if we guarantee uniqueness, but the name for the scenario really should be um, like its parent. The or tree has a name. We should make that the name, and whatever is beneath it, I don't know. We'll have to see. Um, we can work something out. But yeah, we may switch it to ID and just have the name showing in the display or something. But one way or the other, we will get this thing working over on scenarios with multiple return values. So one for each scenario that we generate. And at that point, we should be able to go in our graph, stick in an OR node, and yeah, that was the other way. Is every time you go down an OR, you get an extra dot 1, 2, 3 for your children, and accumulate those. That might be the best. Um, but at any rate, we'll work out something. Um, and we should be able to create a scenario, I mean, create an example where we do, pick job, I'll take job 1 or job 2, and they have different salaries and stuff like that on top of, my spouse's salary, and see 2 different graph lines for the 2 scenarios. I don't know. The naming thing's going to be a little messy because, like, we're going to have that name visible somewhere so somebody could go back and make sense of it. That's why I'm thinking something about the choices. I don't know, because, well, the first child has a name too, so maybe that's okay. All right. Anyway, a couple minutes over here, but thanks for coming along for the journey today. I think the refactoring worked out pretty well overall. Scenarios is fully encapsulated. We simplified that computation for the OR node in particular. I feel like I can understand what I'm saying now. It's like for every child, for every scenario, I have to generate a new scenario for every child and every existing scenario. Coloring of the lines. Yeah, once it gets to a lot of them, I'm not sure how that's going to play out. That's part of the experiment. Okay, tomorrow 2 to 4:30 Eastern Time or 6 to 8:30 p.m. UTC. And thanks again. Have a good evening. Catch you later. Bye-bye.